Hi, this is Mike from BandLab. With BandLab Sounds, you have access to a wide variety of samples from a diverse range of genres. In this video, we'll show you how to combine Bollywood sounds with trap beats. You can open this project yourself with the link in the video description. And if you find this guide useful, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to be the first to know when new videos drop. I'm going to start by opening BandLab Sounds and searching for Bollywood in the text search field. I open DJ Angel Bollywood Sample Pack Volume 1. I like the sound of DJ A Mandolin 90 D minor, so I drag it into the project. BandLab asks me if I want to set the project key to that of the sample. I do, so I select Set. BandLab also changes the project tempo to the same BPM as the sample. However, I'd like to work in double time so that I can add some 30-second note hi-hat rolls later. So I change the project tempo to 180 beats per minute. When BandLab asks me if I'd like to stretch the audio to the new tempo, I want to keep it at the same speed, so I select Don't Adjust. Now we have a project tempo of 180 beats per minute, but the sample is still playing at its original speed, which will be half time relative to the rest of the project. To give me more headroom to add other elements to the mix, I turn the mandolin track down to -6 dB. Next, I'd like to add some drum beats. So I create a new virtual instrument track and set it to drum pads 808. I set this track to -3 dB to balance it with the mandolin sample. I add closed hats on quarter notes for 2 bars. I then place claps on the third beat of both bars. I put kicks on the first and fourth beats of the first bar and on the second beat of the second bar. I duplicate this 2-bar sequence out to fill out the rest of the 4-bar clip. To duplicate notes or clips in BandLab, hold Option on Mac or Alt on Windows and drag them over. As mentioned earlier, I want to add some 30-second note hat rolls. I set View Grid Size to 1/32 and add 3 note rolls after the first and fourth beats on the second bar. I return the View Grid Size setting to Smart. The 808 Kit's kick has a lot of low end, and I want to attenuate this so I can add my own big 808 bass line. In the effects panel, I add a tone multi-filter effect. I set the filter mode to high pass and the frequency to 96 Hz. I'd also like to add some effects to the mandolin track to give it a slightly dirtier, more vintage feel. First, I add a reverb, studio reverb, setting the mix to 26%. Then I add a distortion tape simulator. I set the drive to 17%, the bias to 100%, and the speed to 52%. Next, I want to add that 808 bass line. I add a new virtual instrument track, and this time set it to 808's 808 bass. I sequence a simple bass line that plays on the root note of D, and then the perfect fifth, which is A. We now have the main elements of the track, but I want to add some other sounds to keep the arrangement interesting. In BandLab Sounds, I click the back arrow to return to the main page, and this time enter Trap into the text search field. I open the Rich Rap Trap Pack, and drag Rich Rap Trap Keys 04 into the project. Next, I'd like to add some vocals. At BandLab Sounds, I click the Loops tab. Then click the Search Filter button to bring up the filtering options. I set the instrument filter to voice and the genre filter to hip-hop trap. BNG BLW Vox Loop 147 D sharp minor Angry sounds like it would fit the vibe that I'm going for. So I drag it into the project. I only need to use the first 4 bars of the sample, so I drag its right-hand edge leftwards to reduce it to 4 bars in length. This sounds cool. I'd also like some sound effects to help transition between different parts of the project. I reopen the search filter and change the instrument filter from voice to effects. I drag SD142 FX mid-riser 2-bar into the project, positioning it at the end of the 4-bar sequence. I set this track to -8.2 dB. Next, I drag ST140 FX hit 2-bar 05 into the project, positioning it at the start of the sequence. Now I have all the elements I need to make a simple arrangement. I start with the mandolin loop in a version of the 808 drum beat with the kick drum removed. On bar 9, the kick drum comes in. On bar 17, the bass and keys are added to make a drop. On bar 25, the vocal is added too. On bar 33, the keys and vocal drop out. On bar 41, I swap the mandolin out for keys and vocal. On bar 57, I swap out the keys for the mandolin. On bar 65, the vocal swaps out for the keys. On bar 73, we're beginning to wind things down, and the drums drop out. On bar 81, the bass drops out too, and the track draws to a close. Remember, you can fork this project and make your own version of it using the link in the video description. Have fun!